Hi, everybody. I don't often do this. I do scheduled programs on Monday and Friday, and of course, halftime and post-game shows. And very rarely am I moved, no pun intended, to talk about something that comes up during the course of the week. Obviously, with the Browns' current COVID situation, I feel compelled to speak the truth, and I feel compelled to speak from a perspective of compassion, not just fandom, and not from a perspective of, oh, woe is us, the fans. I want to talk about what the truth is behind all of this. Anybody who has followed my Twitter feed knows what I've been saying over the course of the last 2 weeks or so. This is a full-fledged outbreak in the facility, and I have been telling everybody who would listen that the facility was infected, and the way that this virus works, I have people who are close friends of mine who are my own personal medical people who have explained all of this to me, and it isn't really that hard to figure out. I would say this. It takes anywhere from 24 to 48 hours to up to 10 days to test positive for this virus. It is not something that is your typical, 24 to 72 hours, and then you're free. There have been many, many documented instances of this particular virus waiting 5 to 10 days after exposure to light up and become positive in test form. There is also some percentage of false negatives and false positives with testing. But for the most part, if you follow the bouncing ball around the Browns facility, when you see offensive line coaches being declared COVID positive, and then you find, offensive linemen who turn up COVID positive, and it's happening like a week apart, it all makes sense from a scientific perspective. The NFL is lying to the public. ESPN is lying to the public. Every mouthpiece is lying to the public. They're trying to make it appear that, oh no, it's just all outside contacts. This has nothing to do with an infestation in the Browns facility or an outbreak in the team, because the outbreak in the team means they're going to lose revenue, and they don't want to lose revenue. Every week that goes by that they have to postpone games, there's a greater likelihood that more and more people will become infected, and it will infect the league in essence and affect the league as far as the amount of money they're able to make in their revenues. You can say it's a tight ends coach. Harrison Bryant had it. Now suddenly a tight ends coach has it. Callahan has it. Now all of a sudden an associate offensive line coach has it, and Joel Bitonio has it. And then there's the mysterious case of Kaderil Hodge, who obviously was in contact with the disease, and then suddenly was able to play last week because he hadn't tested positive, who now suddenly is tested positive, because it can take more than 5 or 7 days, as I have previously stated, to get this particular virus. There are things that bother me about this. First of all, misinformation has become the stuff of legend in the time in which we're living. Everything is miscommunicated, the public is misinformed, or people keep tweeting things that become conspiracy theories. Let's shoot this down right away. This is not a conspiracy theory against the city of Cleveland, okay? This is an absolute abortion by the NFL, who have botched protocol. and are not man enough to acknowledge it, and instead are allowing more people to be exposed to what can be a deadly virus in some people. Now, we've lived through a time where people said, oh, it's just like any other flu, or, oh, it's just a hoax and this is all a hype and yada, yada, yada. But we're seeing people die of this. We know people who've died of this. And it is, at the very least, if you want to really play it down, it's extremely communicable. And you know that Kevin Stefanski was practicing responsible distancing and mask wearing. He's 38 years old. He has young children at home. He has a wife at home. I don't hear anything about the people, in addition to the football players, who have been exposed to this virus because a wife, a child, an elderly relative could be affected or stricken by this as a result of the NFL's lack of protocol. It's easy to sit back and say, oh, we've determined that this is really a case for contact tracing, but that there is no outbreak in the facility when the facility has been shut down 3 times in a week. There's no other organization in football that's had to shut down its facilities 3 times in 1 week. Now, am I calling for the game to be postponed? You know, at this point, it doesn't matter because it's not going to be the real Cleveland Browns to the field anyway. And what I'm going to say next is probably, this is as truthful as I can be and as from my heart as I can be. And everybody knows Mr. Moohead, the character, can be pretty heartless and gut-wrenching. But me personally, I believe the Cleveland Browns won the game they were supposed to win. They've proven everything to me that I wanted proven as a fan. I wanted to see that the team was heading in the right direction, that the team could overcome adversity, that the team could play some bad games early on and come back and establish an identity. Never in my dreams did I think the Cleveland Browns would even make the playoffs. But in the end, I'm not going to be judging things on the basis of, oh, this first playoff game is a complete tragedy and it's just an extension of the bad luck of the Cleveland Browns. I'm not going to buy into such a sad sack story. That's really a pathetic way of looking at it. I want to point something else out too. I have professional standards. Mr. Moohead doesn't, but I do. I was in the radio industry from the time I first put my face in a studio when I was 13 years old, when I first went on the air when I was 16 years old, from the time I was the youngest general manager of a radio station in America when I was 27 years old, from the time I became a multimillionaire at the age of 40. And I don't talk about this shit because life's been good to me. I've been lucky. I got to do the one thing I always wanted to do. And I retired at 43 years of age because the industry that I was in was taken away because it was swallowed up by a few because they deregulated it. It's unfortunate, but compassion is not in the vocabulary of a lot of people today. We live in a very, very polarized time. The Cleveland Browns overachieved what anyone's logical expectations and aspirations were. I credit every member of this team for hanging tough. Even the Robert Jacksons who put themselves on the field and tried to do everything they could for their team, for their teammates. Not everybody is meant to succeed in the biggest way. Life is full of setbacks and small victories, some Pyrrhic victories and some really significant victories. The Browns are a significant victory story in 2020 and 2021. The National Football League has mouthpieces, and I talk about my professional standards, because when I come on here and I do interviews with people who are respected individuals in the world of sports, as I have over the last 17 years, you don't hear any of my shit. You don't hear any of the goofiness. There's something that kicks in that used to be an FCC guideline standard. You don't drop F-bombs. You don't act inappropriately. You show respect to your guests. And I think every person who's in this chat room right now, in an unscheduled program, every person who comes back to the program years later saying, hey, I remember that, and think of this program as something good, I like to think that a piece of my heart lies with this program. What I saw this morning on ESPN angered me and was the prime determinant that I was going to come on here. First Take is not one of my favorite programs, but as I tell people all the time, I prep the show. I don't get paid to do the show, but I prep the show, because the least you can be is prepared. And it's one of the things that I've complained about in past incarnations of the Cleveland Browns. Folks, the least you could be is prepared. You know, when you see 18 penalties in a game, it's like Freddie Kitchens, you know, for gosh sake, you at least can be prepared. So I watch programs and I read, and usually just kind of vaguely amused, shaking my head if I disagree with something. What I saw today was Stephen A. Smith on ESPN's program and First Take. And when the news came up about the Browns, his unbelievable response, which I think fans, if you're watching this program or if you're seeing this on archive, I want to personally stump to get this guy terminated. There ain't no excuse for what I saw. Everybody's got an act. Mr. Moohead is an act. I'm not Mr. Moohead. Everybody's got a shtick. But if the shtick becomes hurting people and lying about people, then yeah, I got a problem with it. What he said was, well, I already, and I'm sorry if I'm being unflattering, but so be it, because I'm very angry about this, because I have professional standards. I believe that the Browns weren't going to win anyway. They weren't going to win anyway. Now they're definitely not going to win. The Cleveland Browns are going down. That's what Stephen A. Smith said. That was his analysis. Well, let me tell you something, Stephen A. Smith. Kevin Stefanski's wife might be going down and his children might be going down. You stupids. Ugh. We've gotten to the point where we have lost our civility and lost our decency. And what it tells me in one more fashion, and everybody knows that I have spoken about CTE for years now, long before it had a name. Watching the average life expectancy of NFL players at 57 years of age pass away. And they finally started donating brains, and so they came up with CTE, because there's obviously a real correlation between taking head blows from the time you're in junior high school all the way to the time you're a professional football player. What we don't know is how many patients suffer from CTE who just played college football and never made it in the pros, because nobody cares about those people because they're not headline makers. Stephen A. Smith just wants to be a headline maker. He wants to be a player. That's what he wants to be. So he's going to kick a horse while it's down and make a joke, and an angry joke at that, about people who have undoubtedly inadvertently exposed others to this potentially deadly disease. I can't do a 2 or 3 minute video, folks, to express the wrath and to vent the anger that I have right now. Stephen A. Smith has been pulled off the air several times for shooting his mouth off and has come back begging forgiveness. And I'm tired of him. And I think anybody who believes what I'm saying, at least tweet the son of a bitch. It's not acceptable. The Browns were not the favorites to win against the Steelers, but it's not about a game anymore. If all you see this is a wrecked opportunity, you're seeing this only for yourself. That makes you like so many other people today. Me, 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 me. Find me this. Give me that. There's more to it than that. There are people being affected, and their livelihoods and their safety are being affected by this. I predicted, and if you follow my Twitter feed, that it wouldn't be just the Browns. I told everybody that the Browns were going to be the first team that was going to be stricken like this, because you could see the buildup in their facility. An idiot could figure this out. And the league just keeps on using their mouthpieces. Tom Withers of the AP, Associated Press, go fuck yourself. Every 5 minutes tweeting this bullshit. Every 5 minutes. What, do you want attention, little AP man? Give me a break. You're just another mouthpiece. Spouting, and the league has confirmed that they're not going to postpone the game. The league can't postpone the game because now they're in neck deep. You can't postpone all this stuff. Everything that you're seeing in the political landscape, you can't just postpone this and pretend like it didn't happen. It all is happening. And the NFL, if they were going to postpone this game, would have to acknowledge the honest truth. And that honest truth is that they fumbled the ball. They didn't want to acknowledge the danger in this. They just let it go on. They figured, we start missing these dates and we keep protracting this out to a later date, more and more people are going to get it. We got to jam this thing in no matter who is jeopardized. It happened to be us, but it's not any great wrath from God falling on the city of Cleveland. It is the logical conclusion to an obvious premise. That's what it is. This thing was born to spread, and if you're practicing in close quarters, indoors, and every one of your position coaches wind up having it, then all the positional players are eventually going to get it, or a large percentage of them will. One by one. And they don't all show positive at the same time. Some will show positive 2-3 days after. Some 4, some 5, some 6, some 7. There's going to be more. This game is not going to be a competitive game, and it isn't even a representative game. And it's not even about the game. I don't want the game played, period. I don't want any of the games played. I don't want there to be a postseason. I don't want it to happen because people are going to get sick. And it starts with position coaches going from position player to position player. Wiped out the Saints' entire running back, their entire offensive backfield got wiped out. And this is how it happens. If you think that Joel Bitonio is the only offensive lineman who's going to get this, you're absolutely mistaken. This, and if you honestly think that Kadarius Hodge dodged a bullet and now suddenly he just coincidentally came down with this when a wide receivers coach is also positive, you can believe what you want to believe in 2021. That's obvious. People have proven to me they could believe anything. But it's logical. And if we let the game happen, the Steelers are going to get it too. And I don't want Pittsburgh going through this. I'm not a Pittsburgh fan. Mr. Moohead isn't, and I'm not either. So in that case, we share something in common. But I don't want any of those people to have this. I'm not going to be pointing saying, Ben Roethlisberger, you're going down. You're going down. You know, this is a man, Stephen A. Smith, who makes his living shitting on the Dallas Cowboys, shitting on people during one of the hardest times in history when he's asking the American public to feel sorry for his people. The worst example of a human being that I can think of. Ask something for myself, but give it to nobody else. It's unacceptable. The game will be played, or some facsimile of the game will be played, and I don't care what the result is. My team already won. My Cleveland Browns already won. Because the one thing, long before Mr. Moohead existed, was me as a little kid listening to the Browns and Jim Brown's last season. When I was 8 years old. I've been following this team a long time. I remember Mike Phipps coming in and then Brian Sipe coming in. I remember Bill Nelson before Mike Phipps. I remember Don Cockcroft when he became the kicker of the Browns all through the time he finished becoming the kicker of the Browns. I saw players who were good, players who were less than good, and guys who were real horses. I saw Clay Matthews play and Ozzie Newsome play, the real horses, the guys who had just incredible will and drive and strength. And I've lived long enough to see this. Every single media outlet, there's not a single one that showed compassion for this Cleveland team, its players, prior to this past Sunday's game. Not a single one showed any kind of compassion. All of a sudden, when they get the win, everyone's trumpeting at his headlines. Hey, for the first time in 18 years. And now, more COVID cases, and there's Stephen A. Smith tooting the horn on ESPN. And now the story again shifts to, the sad sack Browns. That's what I'm talking about. A streak of cruelty in people. Well, I give my team full credit. I give my team all the credit in the world for turning this season around. They could have walked away when they got slammed by the Ravens and the Steelers early. When they just played a miserable game against the Raiders, they could have folded. They could have folded when they played the Ravens as good as anybody can play the Ravens when the Ravens are really playing like the Ravens. And to come so close, they could have been demoralized, but they weren't. They could have laid down for the Titans because they laid down for them last year, and they didn't. And this past Sunday, they could have laid down because God only knows I could see what was coming around the corner. They got the job done. And they made it. And they're not going to lose in the playoffs. They made it to the playoffs. And hopefully when we're eventually rid of this virus, people will look at the bigger story and say, you know something, I was just being a selfish asshole because I wanted that game played, or I was disappointed that the Browns lost. All I care is that they made it, because there comes a time in everyone's life when it's go time, when you're at a crossroads and you either take that next step or you don't. And there are some people in life who maybe never get to experience that. I was lucky. I talk about my past in business. I was lucky. I was lucky as hell. I was given one chance. My father gave me that chance. And when somebody gives you a chance, you make the most of it. And when you do, you should be proud of yourself. You shouldn't have to be answering to anybody about anything. Because in your soul and in your heart, you know you did the best you could. Every one of these Cleveland Browns players, don't feel sorry for Joel Bitonio, because in his heart, the important game was won. We'll never know what would have happened in this next one, but you can't consider it a loss. You can't consider this to be like the worst possible outcome, because there's next season and the season after, and the challenge continues on. And the same way it was for me and for everybody else who gets up and puts their pants on in the morning, it's another opportunity to be the best we can and to do the best we can. But, you know, I would hope that through everything that's happened, the Georgia runoffs today, all the speculation of what happened and what didn't happen in a presidential election, Mr. Moohead's very outspoken about this, and I am, by acknowledgement, a moderate Democrat. I want to point that out, because fiscally, I'm conservative. Socially, I'm liberal. Not as liberal as things are going right now necessarily, but I'm a moderate Democrat, and I see things from a very centrist point of view. I hope that things don't have to be black and white and polarized. I hope that everybody can watch this and just feel good for their football team and be proud of these guys. Get a hold of their tweet handles and tweet them and tell them how proud you are of them and what a great job they've done. What a great job Stefanski's done. This isn't about hardware and awards. This is about the fan base. This is what you asked for and wanted back so badly in 1999 and earlier, for the years before that, when the team was taken away. This is what you hoped for, and you got to see it. Maybe not as much as you wanted to see, but forget about yourself. You think these players wanted this? You think these players want this virus in their homes with their families? Let's execute a little bit of compassion, and please do what you can with Stephen A. Smith. There just can't, and I watched, and even Max Kellerman was like, it was like, I've never seen somebody laugh at a health crisis, because he was a Steelers supporter and that he was happy with this going to happen and that the Browns were going to really, really go down. I don't know. It's more than I can withstand professionally. As far as what's going to happen next, follow my Twitter feed. I don't report things every 5 minutes like little Tommy Withers does to try to gaslight people. And I'm not here to try to gaslight anything. There will be more positives. There has to be, because it's in the facility. 1 is 2 and 2 is 4. And yeah, it's mathematical. There comes a point where if you're all in a house, you're all going to get it. If you don't understand yet why Hispanic families are more affected by COVID-19, it's because they have multi-generational families living under one roof. Children, parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles, all living under the same roof. It's part of their culture. And it's also part of the economic realities of life in 2021, that these people can't afford their own places, and so they share with their own. That's a good thing. But it's an unfortunate thing when we have a virus like this. You don't point your fingers at the Hispanics and say, it's your fault. It's not. This is their culture and it's survival. And a practice facility is no different, with walls, ceilings, and enclosures. And when it's too wet outside to practice, you're going to practice at close quarters indoors, and it's going to spread. I didn't want to go on the air on Friday as Mr. Moohead screaming my head off, as I sometimes do. I just wanted to be myself, and I just wanted to say how proud I am of the Cleveland Browns And it doesn't matter what happens this weekend to me, because as a fan, you pay in. As a fan, you pay in with your heart, you pay in with your wallet to watch the games, you pay in. And if you get something worthwhile in return, you're so far ahead of the game. Because I can't tell you how many people pay into our system every day in this country and don't get what's coming to them. And, we have people arguing over $600 stipend relief checks, when there's many bigger fish to fry, when we're falling short on getting vaccines into people to save people's lives. We can't even agree on $600. Open your hearts, be compassionate, cheer for your team, and realize what an effort they've given you this year. They'll be back again next year. Whole after a vaccine wipes this damn thing out once and for all. We can get our lives back on track. But until then, let's show a little bit of humanity and humility. Let's do what we can to at least make something positive out of something that is upsetting. Everybody, I love every person who has been part of this program, like family to me. And I'm lucky that I have the opportunity to do this. And I've never promoted the program because for me, it wasn't about being a headliner. It wasn't about being a shaker and a mover. I like doing whatever work I do kind of quietly. I'm a very private person. What happens in my life just stays in my life and in my world. I don't tweet about stuff. I don't have action going on social forums talking about myself. I don't do that. What I can do is to say this, that what's good in your heart is what's good for you. And invariably, when you're being good to others, it will be good for you. You can look at it religiously if you want and say, doing for others will put me in a favorable light when I go to heaven. You can do it just because you wake up in the morning, you decide that, I can do something good for somebody today, and that's going to make me feel better about myself. And I'm doing this because I want the players on the Cleveland Browns to know that they're more than just chess pieces on a board. They're being manipulated by a league, and the league is interested in its financial interests, and the players have never been of concern in terms of their safety. The players have made the determination that making the money that they make is worth the potential risks and hazards associated with playing the game of football. But this goes beyond that. This is not something that they needed to be exposed to. It's something that they were exposed to. Many other players on many other teams are going to experience the same thing. It's going to take weeks to get through these playoffs. And if you think that we're going to be the only team affected this way, you're crazy. Because we're going to get out on the field with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and there's going to be a bunch of positive guys on our team who just haven't yet tested positive. And the Steelers are then going to get hit. It's just what happens with these types of things. The NBA is now having problems. You didn't see Kevin Durant now out 4 days because of contact tracing. They played in a bubble and didn't have a single incident for an entire playoff, back half of the shortened end of the season and playoffs. Nobody wants to believe that the only way to get rid of this, if you don't want to get it right now, is to cordon yourself off in the lockdown. I know nobody wants to hear that. And for most people, it's not possible anyway. You got to run the risk. I live a lockdown existence pretty much here because I don't want to get it and I don't want to give it to my girlfriend. I don't want to do that because she's an at-risk person. We're all at risk to one way or another. People who watch this program, Derek Frisbee, who's a regular contributor to the program, has COVID. And he'll tell you how bad it is. Tony the Calf, who's been with me for, godly knows, 14 years on this program, he's had COVID. He'll tell you what it's like, what it is. This thing's real. Have a heart. The players are doing the best they can. The coaching staff is doing the best they can. And wish them well. Not on Sunday. Now, wish them good health and good fortune. Thanks a lot for tuning into this. This remains up on archive. Visit Twitter and give Stephen A. Smith a piece of your mind. If I can find online the exact video of what he said, I will try to put it up. If anybody else can, please try to find that and look it up and put it on social media. It is pathetic. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you as Mr. Moohead on Friday to talk about other things. Until then, take care, and I will see you on Friday. Bye-bye.